Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis Podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find tuning into the Oasis Podcast. This is a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. Subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and watch us on YouTube now. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for listening and watching. Those who are watching on YouTube, appreciate you. Today we have a returning guest, Miss Ayanna.
Hi, everybody. How y'all doing?
I hope everyone is well.
Girl.
It has been, right? Girl, it's been some time for many reasons. I know you've been busy. You've been up to some things, not even some things, lots of things. Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead and let people know what you've been up to, girl.
Oh, my goodness. Well, the biggest thing is I'm a new mom via foster care. I got my beautiful, almost 4-month daughter back in March. On March 14th, she came to me at 11 days old, and she's been rocking out with me since. And it has been a great journey. You might hear in the background, you might actually see her on screen because I'm in full mommy mode, and hopefully she lets me get through this podcast. But if not, she'll make a special appearance. But so I've been mommying, and that's been taking up a lot of my time. I'm writing and working and doing a lot of stuff, staying busy. Just dropped a book. Half of What You See, The Scars of Love is my latest book that I dropped. Fictional novel, suspense, drama, good stuff, all the good stuff in there. And I'm really excited. Still grinding with Harry Return, motivational messages, doing all that work, still trying to put out content, consistent content on my YouTube page. So I've been busy and still working full time.
Okay. I don't know where you get the energy, girl, but God bless you. I don't even know how these things be getting done, but they get done, right?
They do. We make it happen. We tap into something. I think it's tapping into our brilliancy, but we tap into some space and make it happen. So
that is a fact. I hear little mama back there. We love kids, so she do what she do. It's okay. She
ain't turned up yet. She's chilling on her poppy pillows, so we're gonna keep rolling with it. God bless you.
Oh, little mama. So I mean, there's some amazing things been happening for you, right? The most amazing thing is that we are here. Okay.
Yes.
So, because as we know, a lot of people ain't make it. So for us to be here, it means a lot. I wanted to just jump in and introduce the topic. So today we're talking about religion versus spirituality. And how did this come about? So honestly, this came about from a conversation sparked from one of my podcast episodes that I have with my current partner. So yes, I'm not single, y'all. And
that's right, she's off the market.
Okay. And and it was an interesting conversation. But for me, I had so many responses to it. Like mentally, emotionally, like I had so many responses that one was surprising to me because I've never viscerally reacted to someone questioning who I am spiritually, right? Who I am and how I worship, and you know what I mean? And it wasn't done in let me rephrase that. It took me a while. It took me a little bit to realize it wasn't being done as an attack, but really to just learn more, to understand more, right? Because when you're dating, you ask questions, you figure things out. So, I mean, it took that and my therapist, but you know.
Shout out to the therapist. Shout out to the good therapist.
Girl,
you
know who you are. Because I be needing her.
Bad love to the therapist.
Okay. For me to like take a step back and realize why I was having the reactions and just her giving me real understanding about certain things, like making me understand things from a different perspective, the perspective that he may be coming from, rather. And it was helpful. It definitely was needed. But it just sparked, and like immediately, like I after I kind of was processing my thoughts, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I need to do a podcast episode. Like I'm like, who am I gonna do this with? Yeah. Like it was automatic, and I was like, girl, can you
I'm here for it. I'm here to have Lord, this, and what a conversation we can have around this. I'm so glad you asked me to have this conversation. I've had this conversation a few times with a few different people and lots of perspective. You know, people get real charged.
Yes.
When you talk about their faith and their belief and their and what they've been taught and learned. But I'm down. I'm down to go there. And I can only speak on my experience and my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I'll preface by saying that, but like, oh yeah, this is a conversation. It's a conversation to have. And kudos to you having it in a romantic space, because a lot of times people don't touch that. Like, you know, until it becomes an issue because y'all got kids now.
Yeah.
And how you gonna raise the baby? That's when they want to talk about it. So I'm glad that y'all are having healthy dialogue about it now. That's dope. So kudos that you're having that dialogue.
Thanks for that. But let me tell you, when you having these conversations, you're like,
it's a trigger.
Yeah, it is. But it is wonderful when you get on the other side of it to be like, oh, okay, like we did that. We figured it out. We have understanding now. But yeah, it is pretty tough. And we're gonna talk about this topic and how it relates to dating. But it's really not something that I've really given much thought until in my late, I think until my 30s, to be honest with you. I honestly never really processed it in that way. And I think part of me was because when I was younger, I ascribed to a religion. And I think when those topics came up, I had a sense of, I don't know, the word I want to use is security or protection, because I can say, oh, I fall under this umbrella or I fall under this thing. And now where the fact that I don't subscribe to any particular religion, I think now I feel like I have to be more, I feel like I'm more defensive. Like I got to defend
your positioning because you're on the spiritual side now. Okay.
Correct. And I mean, this is not surprise to anybody, and this is probably one of the reasons why some people turn away from religion, is the fact that people who are religious tend to be, not everyone, but can be very judgmental.
Oh yeah.
Right? So it makes you feel like, wait, you coming for me? You know what I mean? Like, and so I had to really process that on my own and really try to, take some deep breaths just to answer the questions and try to give the understanding without feeling attacked.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
So this is deep. And it's not missed on me that you got your God is Dope shirt on. I actually have the same exact shirt in the same exact color.
Oh, really?
Like, we're sisters because you went for the lime green and I went for the lime green too.
Yes. I purposely was like, I'm gonna put this one on today.
And I want to start by saying that, like, God is dope.
Okay.
Right? I want to establish that I know and love and have reverence for the Creator, for God in her many forms. And I refer to God as her, she, him, Father, Mother, universe. I use interchangeable words when I refer to the Creator as the source. But I know my Creator as God, and God is dope. Period. And so I'll lead with that. If somebody asks me what I believe in God. And that said, there is a lot of man-made things that people attach to God. And God is not man. God is everything. God is in man and God is in all of us. There are a lot of things that come with organized religion, and I use the word organized intently, that people get wrapped up in and round up tight in because their identity is in that. All they've ever known is what they've been told to believe. And so when people have their own individual awakening or their own individual pivot from a world of conditioning to a world opening up of just trusting your spirit and being spiritual, it's like, hold up, you are abandoning everything you've been told. And it get real heated. Some people get real about this.
Yes.
So I'm glad we can have an open dialogue. I know you, so I know that we have some alignment in our thinking. And so there's some safety in us having this dialogue with each other. I'm excited to see what comments are generated.
Me too.
From this. Like, I'm going to be checking the comment section. So y'all better make sure to drop your comments, because I really want to know what the streets say about this.
Yes.
I think religion is spirituality with control. Spirituality plus control. If I had to define religion, I could walk in a church and be moved and see rituals happening and see praise happening and see the spirit moving. But then there are also a lot of rigidness and oppression in that church that don't align with God, that doesn't align with my spirit, that doesn't make me feel loved and doesn't make me feel a part of a kingdom. And that's the control part of religion. And I'm a history lover, and so I studied history. And history has shown us that not only is religion a control mechanism, but it was also a tool to wage war on bodies, mostly Black and brown bodies. So then as a Black and brown body, I'm conflicted when I'm told to believe in a religion that I know has oppressed Black and brown bodies.
Correct.
So it's so layered. We can go all over the place.
And that's the piece. It is so layered. But I think, again, because a lot of us have been conditioned to think that it's simple. And it's not. It's really not simple, especially the fact that we are what's the word? There's so much intersectionality, right? There's so many layers to us that we can't just say yes, no, religion or no. It's like, I personally feel, and thank you for defining what religion is, because I'm definitely going to read back the Merriam actually definition. But I feel that being like what you said, following religion is exactly that. I think you worded it perfectly. And I think being spiritual has nothing to do. Let me rephrase that. Being spiritual can exist in or out of a church.
Yes.
Right?
Or an organized
practice religion, or I like to call it a belief system, because it technically is a system of beliefs. Right?
Yes, it is.
And I think that some people have a difficulty when they hear someone say spiritual, they automatically think, oh, you're against the church, or you're no longer part of the church.
Oh yeah.
So or it's something like it's a separate entity. But
honestly,
honestly,
go even deep. You practice witchcraft.
Okay. Don't say you practice or that you studied or you believe in indigenous, religion, or don't even throw in the African part, because then it's it's like, let's time out here, right? Let's know our history. Let's know a little bit more than what you've been told and fed, because that was intentional and purposeful.
Exactly.
Right? So I think that there's always this, when you say spiritual, the mind goes all the way left. I feel, this is my thoughts, that spirit is a soul entity, meaning it can exist by itself. However, absolutely. I think that religion should be composed of spirituality, right? You can be religious. Someone can be religious and not spiritual.
Absolutely. Ooh, girl. Can you say that again? Because that was. Did y'all hear that message? I want to say amen, period. Somebody can be religious and not be spiritual. There's no spirit behind the religion
at all. They're following quote unquote rules, protocols, what they think they're supposed to do, but they're not really invested in a whole body, right? Because that's what religion, that's what loving God is. That's what, embodying God is. But they can say, I go to this church and I do these things, so therefore, no.
Honey, they be in the first pew. They be in the first pew. They be at Bible study. They can quote the Bible front, back, in between.
But when they leave that space, what then? So I feel that there's a clear distinction between what religion is and spirituality is. And I definitely do think on both sides that people hear those words and they think different things, for sure.
Oh yeah, and attach a judgment to it. And it's so hard to have open dialogue about it because of how rooted people are in both sides. Because as critical as I am of the oppressive nature of some religion, I'm also equally critical of some spiritual practice that are oppressive, but it's hard to have those conversations and for people to suspend judgment of either side because they've been conditioned and they've been indoctrinated. It's like a group thinking. It's like real mindless philosophy. Like you don't have no mind behind why you follow what you do. You don't question why you do what you do. You just do it because your grandmama and your grandmama and grandma did it.
Correct.
But why do you do it?
And there's
that's the point that you made. Yes. There's no personalness. There's no spirit behind it.
Correct.
And I feel like conviction. The word I would use is conviction. Why are you convicted to do what you're doing? Because you've been told to,
right?
Or because it connects to your spirit,
or you're afraid to question, or you're afraid to look outside. Because I think a lot of religions are also rooted in guilt,
in fear,
and in fear.
Oh yeah, because that's about control. Because that's the control.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
And I just remember growing up. I'll be lying to you if I tell you I remember exactly where to find this. But, again, it could have been how, because again, I was raised Catholic, how the priest kind of messaged it. But I just always remember hearing that you are to question, right? You are to question religion, and you are to question God. Because in honesty, because he knows, right? The source knows you can question, but you will, and even you can even break away, but you will come back, because that is how sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Of his love.
Correct.
Right.
But so it was always baffled me when, you would question, or children have questions about this and that. Why are we doing this? And why? It always gets shut down. Or as you grow, you start to learn things, and you pull away, and then your family is like, oh my gosh, no, now you a heathen. And it's like, but this is a good thing. This is a good, you're not supposed to just automatically take in anything anyone is giving you. You should question those things, right?
Right. Because the God I know gave us free will. Exactly. It's written in the word that you were given free will to think. And so somebody who has free will should question, before they follow.
Okay.
But it's a fear thing. It's a control thing. It definitely is. And for you to have a leader in the church tell you to question that's radical. Because most leaders be like, you don't question God. It's because we said so. And who is we? Because they said so. Because King James Version says so. Because we can talk about that. We can talk about how the Bible itself was commissioned to be written. Correct. The Bible that the world right now follows is a commissioned book. As writers, you're a writer, I'm a writer. We understand the editing process. We understand things are added and removed.
Correct.
The Bible has been edited.
Correct.
And so people take it as resound fact. And I'm like, yo, it's stamped right there. King James Version. Who is King James? And why does he have a version?
So that means there's an original.
The world follows.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
That the world follows. That is the standard version of this word that y'all rest upon. And it's like, if you don't even question that, like, again, I said, I'm a history lover. I question history. What happened to the versions before it?
Before that, yeah. So and again, we ain't gonna jump into that rabbit hole, but again,
I know, we know define it for us. You said
that
it
was exactly, it was edited, and those who are in power controls history, right? So that's also something that people need to understand, that you are going to be mindful of what you put out there to the masses, because we all know education is key. Reading, if you had literacy, that means you had power. So if I control what people can read and ingest, therefore I can control what they think. So just keeping that in mind, right? However, I also on that same coin, I don't discount the messages and the lessons in the Bible. Right? No. Like I can pick up a Bible, read a verse, and it will hit my heart. It'll hit my spirit. I'm like, wow, I understand that what was said here and what was needed here, right? I think it becomes something else when the human aspect is thrown in there, and then you are, and then they take that to hurt, shame, or make other people feel less than. And that's where I'd be like, that don't sit right with my soul.
Right. That doesn't feel like God. That doesn't feel like
exactly.
God. Right.
Exactly. So I wanted to get into, it's the Merriam-Webster's definition of what religion is, what spirituality is, and then what spiritual is, because they kind of added the word spiritual, so I also wanted to define that piece.
Cool.
So for the definition of religion, the service and worship of God or the supernatural. It has quite a few definitions, so I'm going to read a few of them. It says commitment or devotion to religious faith or observance. And it also reads a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. Right? That one's probably the most comprehensive one, but okay.
Yeah, man. Because they dropped that I word, institutional.
Okay.
That's heavy.
Okay, so very much so. So now let's read what spiritual says. So spiritual can be utilized as an adjective or as a noun. So I'm going to read both of those definitions. They're not too much off, but spiritual as an adjective is of relating to, consistent of, or affecting the spirit.
Relating to, consisting of, or affecting the spirit.
Right? Of or relating to sacred matters.
Wow.
Okay? Period.
Okay.
So spiritual as a noun reads things of a spiritual, and I'm struggling with this word, ecclesiastical or religious nature. That's it.
Okay.
It's pretty simple, right? It's just, to me, hearing these definitions, it's okay, I can see how one fits into the other.
Gotcha.
And I personally, I mean, were those definitions that you were aware of, or did you actually know the actual definitions in your
religion? Yes, spirituality. I actually, crazy now that I think about it, I've never taken the time to like actively look up spirituality. So I can't say that I like could have verbatim said the definition of spirituality, but religion I have looked up in the past and knew the definition of. But the definitions are clear. It makes sense. It's like crystal clear. Spirituality is of the spirit. Anything related to the spirit.
Spirituality of the spirit. And it also reads here, because I missed this one, sensitivity or attachment to religious values.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So there's some foundation to some type of religious aspects. However, it's mainly having to do with anything that is sacred.
Spirit. Right, with what moves your spirit. With what moves, like, and to me that makes sense. Like, I'm not gonna be facetious, but if your spirit is moved by this, I got a Pringle can over here. If you have some deep connection to colanders, like I don't know what it is, that's just what moves your spirit. You got, or let me not be so, to flowers. Every time you're in a field of flowers, something resonates with you. Every time your feet is in the soil, you are moved to emotion. You feel a deep connection to the energy of the earth. Then that is where your spirituality blooms. I can't tell you what to believe in and what you get from being in a garden in a field of flowers, but you get from it. You resonate. And it opens up your spiritual palette. That's what spirituality is for me. What works for Tanisha's spirit may not work for Ayanna's spirit. We might share some things. But what gets your spiritual juices going is not going to be the same for me. And religion feels organized.
Right. And I think that's exactly, you just, again, you said it perfectly, and you kind of segued into another point, is I think, for me, in my opinion, religion is that. It's like, okay, we believe in this thing, we put a stamp on it, that means we all shall follow accordingly. Whereas I think spirituality is viewed more, it's more, in my opinion, when it's not just tied to a religion, when it stands alone, it's more of a independent thinking, feeling, attachment, connection. That's, for me, that's how I see it. To me, it's a more personal journey, right? It's more personalized. Whereas, being in organized religion is essentially something that is more community validated, if that makes sense. Like, that's how.
And don't get me wrong, I agree with you. There are organized spiritual practice, because we can talk about Yoruba faith, Ifa. We can talk about organized spiritual practice.
Right.
But true spirituality, for me, like you just said, is an independent work. I always say this. I've said it so many times. there is not a man that can bring me to God. Meaning, I don't follow man to get to God.
Correct.
I know God already. Like, I know God for myself. From my own experience of God, I know God. So there's not a man on this man, woman, child, person. I say man not in the literal sense of cisgender, but this human. Let me say that human that can bring me to God. That can say, I brought her to God.
Right.
I brought her to faith. I brought her to Christ. And you know, if we sit in church, that's a message. Bring people to Christ. Do the work. Go out there and hit the streets. Bring people to God. And I'm like, nobody brings me to God, because God is as close as the vein in my neck. Like, God is here. God is eternal. And so when I hear God speak to me, I didn't have to go to nobody to hear God.
Correct. There was no middleman.
Right. When I feel God moving in my life, I didn't have to consult with nobody to say, is this God? I knew immediately it was God. When God saved me, time and time again, I ain't had to go to nobody and ask them to confirm whether or not that was God stepping in.
Okay.
So it's, to me, that's what spirituality is when you have when it resonates with you and you have the personal connection. Can you have spirituality in religion? Absolutely. Can you have it outside of religion? Absolutely. But true spirituality is that personal one-on-one connection with what you believe in, with what you believe. A Buddhist chants. A Buddhist focuses their mind by chanting and meditating.
And there's power in the vocal vibrations.
Right.
And like there's some,
to connect to spirit. You said you grew up Catholic. First of all, we all recycle shit. Like, people don't want to talk about that. All religions borrow from each other.
They all,
exactly. They don't want to talk about that. They are all from the same source. Okay?
Yeah, they all stemmed from one main thing that broke off because it's a human thing to do. Oh, I don't like that piece. Right. I'm gonna do something different. And then we have all these different.
And don't get people to talk, because if you want to get some real debates, you get like a Pentecostal and a Baptist, and I'm not even gonna call them out, because I don't want nobody coming for me. I don't want the commenters coming at me. Not calling nobody out. But it all stems from the same place. And if we're going to be really real, because I'm an educator at heart, it stems from Africa. It stems from the cradle of civilization.
Yep.
And when I saw Africa removed out of religion, I couldn't relate to religion.
Right.
And deeper than that, you mentioned intersectionality. So deeper than that, I'm a woman. I'm a cis woman. I'm a Black woman. When I saw womanhood removed from religion, and I saw women subjugated in religion, women oppressed in religion. Women said, religious leaders said women couldn't preach. Women couldn't have leadership roles in the church. Women had to walk 3 feet behind in certain religions. Women had to submit. When I saw that it was just a subjugation of a gender, I was like, any religion that doesn't honor my divinity, because I know women to be divine. If you see a woman give birth, that's God. You understand what I'm saying? If you see the divinity of childbirth and of mothering, you understand what God is. The way God cares for us is the way a mother cares for a child, for an infant. Like, we are infants to God, and that's the way God cares for us. And so if you remove that from the religion, how can I follow that? Because you're removing me. I can't even relate. I can't find myself in it.
Girl.
And how can you bring me to God if you're erasing me?
You preaching. Okay, because it's so much. Like, it's so, and it's honestly, when these things come up, when you're having these conversations, it's so much, and that's why it's so hard sometimes too, to really verbalize, right? Part of me, though, feels that when someone says, oh, I'm of a religion, and this is my thoughts, people go, okay. When you say I'm spiritual, that's when it's like, tell me more. Why?
Right.
Why are you not part of why? You know what I mean? And to me, it's like, I think both of them should be respected equally.
In the same way. Right.
In the same way. I'm not going to question you if you say that you are of religion A, B, C, or D.
Right.
So if I just go, boom, you believe in something. Honestly, at the end of the day, this is my one thing. I think believe in something that's greater than yourself.
There you go. Right. I agree. And I encourage people to believe in themselves because we are gods. Listen, that's my platform.
Right.
My platform is that we were made in his image and we are gods. So if you can't attach it to somebody else, you better believe that the God resides in you. And you better know that you are connected to source.
And for some, I think the difficulty comes in understanding, believing in oneself and that we are of God. And because of our humanness, right, we do make mistakes. And I think people think that being perfect means that you are of God, and that is not right. And I disagree with that sense, because I know in my journey I became closer to God when I was finding myself, right?
And when you was effing up, if we're gonna tell the truth, when you was effing up, when you was making mistakes, that's when God snatched your ass up and was like, hello,
right on
come
up,
here,
baby.
my child.
And this is why no one can tell me God isn't real. Just like how you feel by your experiences, no one can tell me that God isn't real based off of those experiences. But I also know that I found God outside of the church, right? And so it took for certain life to hit me in a certain way. It took me for it to have these human experiences to understand the divinity that does live in me. But I think for some people, when you are so stuck in the human experiences, it's hard to see the God in yourself. So that's why I think it is important to think of and to believe in something bigger than yourself, because in that way, it's going to bring it back to you.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day,
cyclical. It's always full circle.
Correct. At the end of the day, if you do believe in an organized religion, it does say to honor and to love God or the source. However, what are the lessons that they give you? It always has to do with either you doing inner work.
Oh yeah.
And you doing work to aid others. Right?
Aid others.
So it's all connected. Correct. It's all connected.
I call it the Jesus effect. And I have, my friends have laughed at me because I was like, yo, if I were ever a preacher and you came to my church would be wild crazy, because I would talk about Jesus like he was a gang member. Like as if Jesus was a gang member from South Central. Think about it. Because he was. Jesus had 12 dudes and some bitches. Excuse me, can I curse? And some chicks.
Yeah, you can curse. God accepts me as I am.
He had Mary Magdalene and all his chicks following behind him, going town to town, disrupting stuff, shaking tables.
Exactly.
Jesus was flipping tables and disrupting shit. And then he was like, I have faith. I don't understand why I'm called to be the Son of God, but I have faith that this is what I'm supposed to do. I will not question source.
Correct.
I will be obedient to my assignment, even if my assignment ends in my demise. Yes. And I say that nobody was, because they talk about Jesus like Jesus is perfect. And I say, remember when Jesus was strung up on the cross at the very end, Jesus cried out, and what did he say? Father, why did you forsake me? And I said, and that right there in the Bible was showing you Jesus' humanity, him being a human. Because he was the Son of God, but he was also man. And at the very end, he was like, yo, why me?
Wow, me though.
This is messed up.
I did everything you said though.
Right, I know you said everything be all right. I'm going to come back in 3 days or whatever, but this is kind of fucked up. Jesus, God, why I got to die? Right. And that was the human in Jesus. So that's why I say the Jesus effect. He did everything. He did everything he was supposed to do. He did everything that he was born to do. And follow the path with obedience and faith, and still at the very end question God, question why it was him that had to be the sacrifice, and then hung his head and died, and still was granted the promise of his life and came back 3 days later. And that's how God works. Right. And so, because God knew God knew his child. God knew that Jesus was going to question him right then and there.
Exactly.
And God was like, listen, bro, I done told you already. This is what we got to do now. I done told you we got to save salvation and stuff. Agree to this now. Don't get cute. Because that's how parents talk to their kids. You go in the store.
I done put you on earth and you getting cute.
Right. If you're black, listen, Black folks, I'm gonna talk to black folks right now. Our white folks out there, your parents may not have ever had this conversation with you, but black folks, when your mama was about to take you somewhere, she'd have that conversation before she'd take you somewhere. Now, when we get in here, don't act cute.
Ask for nothing.
I'm about to take you in this store. Don't show your back. Don't act cute. So that was God. God was like, don't act cute now because you on the cross because I done told you coming back. Stop fronting like I ain't tell you what's about to happen.
Yep.
And so people want to subscribe to this notion of perfection, and God never asked us to be perfect.
Correct.
God asked us to be faithful.
Yep.
God asked us to be faithful and to embody loving other people.
His principles.
To embody a spirit of love. That is what was asked of us. If you look in the Bible, that's all it talks about. Honor thy neighbor, honor thy parents, honor the kids, honor everybody else around you. Give a bread, give a loaf, give to the poor, to give from a caring heart, and you will be blessed. Honor me, have faith in me, come to me, turn to me. I got you. Damn it, I got you. Stop looking out for everybody else. I got you. That is what God is asking of us. And that requires a personal connection.
Yes.
You can't have faith in something that you're not personally connected to.
Exactly. Because at every turn, you're going to find a reason to walk away.
Yep.
But if you're personally invested, not invested through another entity or person, you can sit down, have those conversations. You can sit down and just have a different understanding as to why things are happening in the way that they're happening, and not be so quick to turn your back away if for whatever reason that middle connection is ruptured.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the piece of it that I think is sometimes hard to grasp. Like, you can be religious and be spiritual. And I think that you need to be spiritual and religious for you to get the full experience. If you ascribe to organized religion, like, a spirituality is not a separate thing. And I think that's how sometimes it's like, oh no, that's a that. But then if you think about it, many organized religions believe in the Holy Spirit. The word spirit is right. It's right there. Like,
and they just have different names for it. There you go. They just have different names for Allah, Jesus, God. It's different names for the same experience. And I think it's deep that you said. I'm telling you, put this in the description of this video. Like, there are people who are in religion that don't have the spirit, because we see it all the time. Something happens in the church, and they turn away from the church. But not only do they turn away from the church, they turn away from God.
Yep.
All of the practices that they had, all of the things that they did, that they said connected them with God, they don't even do that anymore.
Yep.
They stopped praying. They stopped talking to God. They stopped having a community with God because something happened with man. And that is why I say no man can lead me to God, which means no man can take God away from me. I can go into a church and put my faith in the preacher and what the preacher is telling me. And then when the preacher ends up being human and falling short of God and the pedestal that I put the preacher on, I lose all of my religion. Not my spirituality, my religion. But I didn't have any spirituality in the religion.
Exactly.
And now I don't know how to talk to God because I don't have pastor so-and-so. I don't know how to talk to God because I don't have grandma so-and-so who used to tell me how to pray.
Right.
I don't know how to sit with God because I don't have my elders in the church because they done turned away from me because I have a lifestyle that they don't agree with. There should never be a place that you can't find yourself in. And they're telling you this is the way that you should be. This is the way that you should believe. If you walk into the church and it does not honor your full self, then it might not be for you. If you have to hide parts of yourself to be in that community, that ain't your space. Because your spirit isn't in it. If I can't be black, fat, gay, queer, smoke weed, and still talk to God in this space, it ain't for me. Because all of those things are of me. And so...
And God created you exactly as you are.
God created me and didn't make no mistakes, honey. Didn't make no mistakes. Because God don't make no mistakes. And so we get into these conditionings. And it's deeply rooted, again, I think, in control. It has nothing to do... It's not even of God. It's not even of God. These conditionings that people who follow certain religions have. And it's all about our origin story. It's all about who beat it into us, who browbeated it into us. who force fed it to us. I want to pose a question, because I think it'll add some context to the conversation. Is what is your origin story with religion? I'll share my origin.
Yes.
story.
Girl, it's perfect. You just segueing right into the next thing. Go on, girl.
For me, I don't know what to label. I don't know if it's progressive or not. My parents did not raise us religiously. Mm-hmm. My parents were raised religiously. My mother went to Catholic school all the way to high school. My grandmother was Catholic. My father is from North Carolina. They're Baptist. My grandmother on my father's side went to church all 3 services every Sunday, Bible study. And they were very big on Southern Baptist Church. And so I don't know what happened in my parents' life for them to decide that religion just was not an important thing for them to do with their children. But we were not indoctrinated into church. We were that typical progressive family that went to church on Easter and Christmas. And maybe New Year's. And I don't even know if we did that. Now, yes, I was baptized. Yes, I had a christening. My brothers were baptized, had christening, but we really didn't do church in my house. We didn't. And yeah, we had to say grace. And my mother would say the Catholic prayer. Yeah. My grandmother went to church every Sunday, Catholic church. And she had her rosary, but it wasn't indoctrinated on us. Like we weren't told this is what you have to do. And so I kind of grew up with the freedom of not being beaten into me. And I think it was maybe because my mama was working hard and she ain't had time to go to church on Sunday. I don't know what it is. I've never even asked my mother why they didn't make religion big of it.
Honestly, this is why I also wanted you on the podcast, because I know this. I know your religious story. And to me, I would never personally have guessed that, right? Like, you weren't raised religiously, that there was no real... Correct. Absolutely. And I think this is perfect to show that, to show the contrast, or the fact that spirituality really can stand alone, has nothing to do with religion.
Absolutely.
You knowing God had nothing to do with the institution of a church, right? Or not religion.
Nothing at all. I don't have a church home. I don't have a pastor that counsels me. I don't go to church on Sundays. I pray every day. I talk to God every day. I talk about God every day. I talk about the goodness of God. I know the Bible. I know I can quote scriptures like other people can quote scriptures. I go to scripture when I need to be filled, when I need the bread of God. I'll go to the word. But I've never had a church home. My experience in church actually was the Girl Scouts. Like, I went to Girl Scouts at church, and they didn't even do church in the Girl Scouts. It was just in a church. So, like, I did not have a connection to church and to religion. I love to sing, so my mother put me in a choir when I was younger, but then I didn't stick with that. Like, I didn't stick to going to church. It was like I wanted to go to sing. The music moved me. And I was never forced to do anything. So in my family, I have a grandmother who was Catholic, a mother who was raised Catholic, and now she's like, I just don't do religion. Like, that's Ann. I don't do religion. And my brother became Muslim because his father was from Senegal, West Africa, so that's what he connected to. Okay. Because his family is Islamic, so he became Muslim when he decided when he was grown. And my other brother is Catholic, and honestly, we don't even have my family. We don't even talk about religion in my family. So I don't even know how Catholic my other brother is, but he calls himself Catholic. But I know and love God, and I think anybody who knows me knows that I know and love God, and it's because of my personal relationship with God. Right. It's because when I was in the hospital at 30 and I was close to death, I heard God talk to me and tell me, I'm doing this for a reason. Like, you're going to come on back to me. Like, nobody can tell me about that experience. It's because I have had spiritual experiences where I have felt the presence of God in my life. And it was never in a church. It was never under the direction of a church leader or a bishop or a pastor. It was always one-on-one, me and God alone. And so I think that people knowing my origin story helps them now understand why I say I'm spiritual and not religious, because I was not conditioned to be religious.
Right.
I never had to be. And so I got the freedom to question everything. Like at one point, I was like a seventh grade Buddhist because they were teaching about Buddhism, and I was like, I'm gonna be a Buddhist. And my mother was like, all right, nam yo horinge, whatever.
Yeah.
like it was just like they let me just do my thing and didn't indoctrinate me into a religion.
I'm gonna come back to how you were raised and kind of tie that into the future, but I'll come back to that. But to share my story, it's complete opposite of yours. I was born Catholic, you know what I mean? There was no choice. I was born, I was baptized, I did first communion, I did confirmation, I taught Sunday school. I went to church every Sunday unless something crazy happened. You know what I mean? It rained, sleet, snow. I was dressed up to the nines, barely allowed to wear pants when I was going to church, even though I was the biggest tomboy and I hated it. My mother didn't want, she encouraged, put them stockings on, put them dresses on. And it was what I knew, right? Like it was what my household was. And so we did go to church. Oddly enough, my mother would make us go to church, but she didn't often attend with us, which was weird. But she, you know, prays. That's something I didn't know that she did. She did pray. She would burn candles and, you know, and she would listen, you know, like listen to religious things. So, but my grandma, she was devout, rosaries, all that, like all the time in church, and always instilled that and made sure that we went. So the interesting about my family is literally half of my family is Catholic and the other half is Protestant. So growing up, there was kind of like a, oh, you know, they're this, or, oh, you know, there's that, which I always thought was so weird. Because even as a child, I'm like, but y'all both believe in God.
Don't that sound like some gang stuff? Don't that sound like some gang stuff?
I ain't even gonna go into things that was said because I love my family. So I'm gonna listen to this. So I ain't gonna say some of the things that was said about being this or being that. So I just remember I used to spend my summers in Florida. And of course, you know, down south family, they were Protestant, right? They was in church. I was in church on Wednesday. I was in church all day Sunday. And I just remember my mother telling me, like, you in their house, so you're going to do what they do. But
that's not you. Right.
When just know what it is.
Right. But don't they love and know the same God? Like, that's crazy.
And that's what I used to say and I used to feel and think. And there was even a point where she would be like, oh no, there's this aunt that is Catholic, so try to go to church with her. You know, and I didn't live with her, so like I'm over here navigating, trying to get to church with this lady. It was just so crazy to me. I was like, but I don't want to do all that. Like, they going to church, I'm gonna go to church with them and then just call it a day. Because in my head, I really felt they believe in God. Like, that was always the thing for me. They just do things different. To me, yeah, it was strange because I wasn't used to it, but they all believed in God. Now, as I got older, and that was always something with my siblings and I, is the fact that, again, we're big on history too. I just always remember, we love watching Discovery Channel. We love watching the History Channel. And so, you know, there was always documentaries, always touching and talking about things. And I just always remember when seeing things about religion and it just resonating and it's just hitting. But again, I went to church every Sunday and I didn't really question a lot. I feel like I had maybe a rupture, you know, life became hard. You become a teenager, you stressed out, you know, and you praying for things and things ain't happening. And you like, life is going left and you're not understanding, but like, I go to church, you know what I mean? I pray, I do all these things, and then life is not happening and then I grew up in a particular church. The priest ended up passing away. And you know how death tends to make you go, you know?
Right.
And I found that by that point, I was a young adult. I had just started college and I took a theology class. So mind you, I've been, you know, listening, watching these documentaries and things on religion. And so now, and understanding the connection of slavery and how religion was used. Now I'm taking a theology class and I just was like, I wasn't wrong. All of these religions are technically the same. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely, they're technically the same. And I'm like, the common theme in every religion is love.
Hello.
Is love.
Because that's the true religion.
Right.
And true foundation.
And then so after like that, I was like, okay, I don't think it was a purposeful choice, but I just kind of was like, I'm going to still follow religion. At this point, I didn't break for religion. I said I'm going to follow religion, but I don't think maybe it's not Catholicism. You know, I was like, okay, let me try something else. So I would literally go to different churches to experience what other people are experiencing.
Right, because you realize the love in it, that you can get there, and it's just like, it's like if you go to somebody's house and they use adobo, and you go to somebody else's house and they use a curry, but they both cooking some chicken. Like, it's still a bird, it's still a chicken. It's gonna have a little bit of sprinkling of a different flavor on it.
Right.
But the point, the substance of it is still the same.
Yeah.
The substance of all things connected to religion and spirituality is faith and love. It's faith and love. Like, you can go to any organized set of religion, and they are going to talk to you about loving one another and about having faith in the source.
At the core, that's always what it is.
That's it. Yep. That's it. About some connection to something bigger than you, and having love for each other, and having faith in that thing that you're connected to. I don't care what religion you dig into. That's going to be the root when you peel back all that extra shit. And the extra shit is the stuff man attaches to it.
Yes.
That's the stuff man attaches to. Yep. Because somebody over here said you got to pray 5 times a day. You got to pray to the east. That's the way you're supposed to do it. God ain't gonna recognize you unless you do that. And then somebody over here said, well, you can't eat those foods, and you got to wear this certain outfit, and women got to do this, and that's the way God is gonna honor you. That's man shit. That's
and those are cultural applications, and that people also don't understand. Like, just like how me and you could be in a meeting, we in a training together. We both heard the same thing. Yep. And we leave the training and we apply it completely different.
Absolutely. Or better than that, not even both heard the same thing. One thing was said and we both heard 2 different messages.
Correct. And it's I found that that's kind of how I'm able to make sense of religion, right? It's like God, love yourself, love others, honor God. And then different people, because religions, believe it or not, were started by people, right? They were started by, if people really understand the history of certain religions, there's individual people that are considered founders of certain religions. And not everyone doesn't know that, though. So that person was actually raised under something else, and they're like, I heard that.
But this president.
Apply it like this.
I'm going to tweak a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of different flavor.
Correct. And but at the base of it is love. However, there were cultural things, depending on what side of the world they were on, right? Depending on the times. Different things were pulled in to make it make sense to the people of those times.
Absolutely. And that is why it will always be a battle of free will, because culture is connected in it. That is why it'll always have its limitations. Yep. When I say it, I'm talking about religion, because culture and man is attached to it. And that it'll always be a source of debate. It will always be so charged because it is directly connected to way of life. Right. Religion is a way of living. Right. It's a way of living that gives you conviction. If you talk to somebody who's Rastafari, who's Rastafarian, they have convictions. In the same way, if you talk to somebody who's a Jew, they have convictions. In the same way, if you talk to somebody who follows Islam and is Muslim, they have convictions. In the same way that somebody who's Catholic, it's a way of life with a set of rules that convicts you to a belief and connects you to a people. That's what religion is at its core. Yeah. What it becomes is much deeper and much messier, because also at man's core is the innate desire to control. Everybody wants to be the person.
Yep. To be better than.
To control and to dominate. Bigger than control, dominance. And so then we have a 200-year war called the Crusades, where the Catholic Church and Islamic faith were literally fighting for 200 years for dominance. We have that same dominant struggle in Israel and Palestine right now. People don't want to call it that. They don't want to call it religious genocide, but we're going to be honest. Be honest about it. You understand what I'm saying? It's when that gets into it, when religion becomes bastardized with man's desire to dominate, is when we get situations and these judgments of people and don't go to their house because their house don't practice like we practice. That's when you lose sight of God, and that's when you lose sight of love, and that's when spirituality is not in it.
Yes.
Because I could go into music. I think music is spiritual. Music itself is spiritual. You can go anywhere in the world. They don't even have to speak English, and you can play a song that resonates with them, and they are moved. They are moved by the emotion. They don't know what the song is saying. I can listen to a song that is not in a native tongue of mine and be moved in my spirit because the music resonates with me. So that's what spirituality is. I can sit in a Catholic church and something in that space can resonate in my spirit. Then I can go and chant and meditate, and something in that resonates in my spirit. Then I can go and light a spliff and talk about Exodus with somebody who is Rastafari, and something can resonate in my spirit there. That's spirituality, is that it rings true in your spirit. And then I can go to a ritual for Ifa and have them honoring ancestors, and that absolutely resonates in my spirit. Yeah. So I think that's the beef. I think the beef is when we take the spirit out of it, and it's just made a man. Then it becomes religious sometimes. Then then it becomes a controlling religion. Right. Dominance. It becomes like I want to dominate you, and you gotta follow this, and you can't. If you even think about going to another church, like you can't F with us. Like you can't. That's crazy. And how is that of God? How is that of God, girl? And so when you had mentioned that earlier, you had said, when people say they're a certain religion, it's the natural response is like, oh, okay. But then when people say I'm spiritual, it's like, well, why? I think we need to do that for people who say that they're a certain religion. Ask them why. Why are you Catholic? You could have been anything in the world and you decided to be Catholic. Why? I'm curious. Why? Right. And most of the time they're going to say, oh, well, I was raised Catholic. Exactly. Yep. It's true. It's true. So, what is your personal connection to being Catholic? Not to God, but to being Catholic. What's your personal connection to Catholicism? Right. That actually is a great question, because if you would have asked me that when I was practicing Catholicism, because I was religious when I was younger. I was a religious child. I was a religious young adult. I was not spiritual. So it wasn't difficult for me when life got hard to be like, let me step back. Or, right? But I also think, of course, now in hindsight, I also know that it was part of my journey to finding God. That I needed those moments and to question and be religious, because in those years, it got me through those years. Religion helped me get through those years. But it also pushed me away in a sense so that I can find myself.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis Podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts and YouTube. Rate us and leave us a review and comment on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and YouTube. Share your favorite episode and like us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions, comments, want to be a guest, or any show ideas, contact us at ajaysoasis@gmail.com. That's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com, or direct message us on Instagram and Facebook.